Good morning, everyone. We're continuing here in the Haggadah, the introduction of the RAMBAM to Mishneh Torah, and we're speaking about the Mesorah, the transmission of Torah Sheba'al Peh that goes all the way from Moshe Rabbeinu until this current day, and the RAMBAM is showing all the links that there are in the chain so that we should understand exactly how it works. Now, we're holding over here by Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, who is known as Rabbeinu HaKadosh, and Rabbeinu HaKadosh was Chibra HaMishneh. He is the one that authored the Mishnah. The Mishnah is the authoritative work of Torah Sheba'al Peh that was written down for the first time. Now we'll have to deal with the question, why did Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, Rabbeinu HaKadosh, why did he decide, after all of these hundreds, if not thousands of years, that you should end up writing down the Torah Sheba'al Peh, the oral Torah, which was given to us orally and supposed to be like that. So listen how the RAMBAM describes what is the lead up to this. And the RAMBAM says like this: from the days of Moshe Rabbeinu, from Har Sinai, until Rabbeinu HaKadosh, they never wrote an official text of anything that was taught publicly in Torah Sheba'al Peh, in the oral Torah. Ela b'kol dor v'dor, but however, in every generation, Rosh Bezdin ay Navi, either the head of the Bezdin or the Navi or the prophet, Shiba Isadur, that was in that generation, Kaisev li'atzmai zichron b'shmuei sheshamru rabbisav. He was allowed to write down for himself what it is that he had learned from his Rebbeim, and then he would teach it orally, he would teach it out loud to the public. So to keep his own notebook, says the Rambam, he was allowed to do, to make sure that everything was in order. But when he would teach it, it was taught without handing out. There were no photocopies, there were no handouts, there were no worksheets. This was the Torah Sheba'al Peh that he was giving down to the next generation. And every single person wrote according to their abilities. The explanation of the Torah and the halachas and the laws, the way that they heard it, and the things that they were introduced, that they in every single generation, in things that they did not necessarily learn from Shemua, what they heard from the previous generation, rather, as we know that there are 13 midas, there are 13, I guess we'll call them traits or ways in which you're allowed to expound upon the Torah, and they were allowed to use those. That's what a Moshe Rabbeinu was given Har Sinai, and they're allowed to use those to be mechadish, to come up with insights into the Torah Sheba'al Peh. And then when they would come up with that insight, they would have to get the haskama, they'd have to get the approval of the Bezdin HaGadol, of the great high courts. This is the way that it was until Rabbeinu HaKadosh comes along. We're talking about the year 3949 on the calendar. Har Sinai was at 3,336. And this is now 3,949. So we're talking over here approximately a little more than 600 years. 613 years after Har Sinai was given. For 613 years, it was given over in such a way that it was always only oral. People were allowed to write it down themselves. But when Yehuda HaChassid came along, he began to author what's called the Mishnah, who kabeitz kol hashmois, he gathered all of the teachings, v'kol hadinim, all the laws, v'kol habiurim, all the explanations about pirushim, sheshamu miMoshe, that he had heard, that was heard from Moshe Rabbeinu, v'shalamdu bezdin shel kol dor v'dor, that every single bezdin, every court, and every yeshiva, that they were learning from one generation to the next, v'chol haTorah kula, in all the entirety of the Torah, v'chibor me'akoil sefer Mishnah, and he put together, he assembled together from all of these teachings of all the generations that goes all the way back to Moshe Rabbeinu, Sefer Mishneh, the work of the Mishnah. V'shanu b'Rambim, he taught it in public, V'nigla l'kol Yisrael, and it was revealed to all of the Jewish people. V'kasvu kulam, then everybody was allowed to write the Mishnayos down. V'ravsu b'kol makom, it became very much, and people gathered in every place. Kedei shelo tishtakach Torah shebal peh miYisrael, in order that the Torah shebal peh, the oral Torah, should not be forgotten from Klal Yisrael. So tomorrow, Be'ez Hashem, we're going to have to deal with the question of why did Rabbeinu HaKadosh do this? He changed the rules. He changed the order of the way that Torah was supposed to be taught to Klal Yisrael. He took something that was oral, Torah Shebal Peh, and he ended up writing it down, making it into ksav, making it into written. Why did he do that, and why was he allowed to do such a thing? Be'ez Hashem, we'll speak about that tomorrow. All the best.